Hi friends, so continuing from where we left off, we need to understand a concept called selectors in CSS. Selectors means how do we select the elements to be styled. Let's give us versus an example. Let me have another HR after the last part that we discussed about so that we can introduce something new here. Now let me introduce three H2s. One H2 has red, another has green, another has blue. Now what I will do is I'll using external CSS, I will style all of them to have red color. Yeah. So here in style.css, I am specifying select H2 by its tag and color it red. So I can just adjust this a bit, maybe make it a little more brighter, maybe take this here, make it a little more bright red. And this is the value I want to assign to H2. So I am selecting the elements by tag here. Okay. So I will save this and I'll save this and I'll go to my website and I'll press F5 and you can see that I have three H2s who are all red. Okay. I can right click and inspect and you can see the color that I have selected in styles.css. Okay. For all these three H2s. Now you can select it in a different way. For example, you can have a class of elements or you can have an ID for an element which is unique to each element. Okay, I repeat, you can have a class of elements and you have a class name and you can select elements by class, or you can have ID for each element and select them accordingly. So let's try the case where we have class of elements. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm coming here and I'm saying that this green has the class of CLS green. Okay, so this means any element which has this class CLS green belongs to a class of elements. Okay, and I can use this class and select these class elements and set their style in CSS. So to do that, I go to styles.css and I use a dot operator notation and I say dot CLS green is green color. Okay, so all the elements which have this class green, right, will have this green color according to our CSS. So if I had another, let me say another H2, okay, which has the same class, right, but which has some other random text, say random.txt. Okay, because it has the class green, it will also be colored according to the style, okay, which is green color. So let me save this, go to our CSS and hit F5. You can see both green and random text are color green and you can inspect it and you can see that the H2 color, the color which is defined for a tag H2 is scratched and it is overridden by the class color. Okay, so there is the class color which is having a higher precedence than the tag color. Okay, so you have to be a little careful in CSS as to which overrides what. Okay, so the class color here is overriding the tag color. So the selection using the class has a stronger weightage than the selection by tag. So that's what you need to understand. The other way to do it is by ID. So each of the elements in the HTML page can have a unique ID of their own and you can use that unique ID to style it. To do that, I'll give an ID equal to ID blue for this H2. Okay, so its ID which is unique is ID blue for this H2, and in the CSS I can say use hash ID blue to tell that it is an ID. So dot means it's a class, hash ID blue means it's an ID, and whoever has the ID blue hash ID, please color them blue is what we are saying here. So if I save the style.css and if I save the index.html and I go back here and I press F5, you can see that this element which has the ID, when I inspect it, is overriding the tag color, and since ID color is more powerful than the tag color, it is coloring it blue. Okay, so these are the ways of selecting, and there are other complicated ways of selecting. For example, if I have a paragraph and I have a draggable property on top of it, I can select that in CSS and I can color it like how I want to do it. So here I have put two paragraphs. Draggable equal to true, which means you can on the HTML page you can drag it around. It doesn't do anything much, but just property where we can show how to select this in the CSS. And here is a paragraph which is a simple paragraph which has no attribute draggable on it. So basically in CSS I can select this para with this attribute and I can style it differently. So to do that, I just come to CSS. I say any paragraph which is having the attribute draggable, color it purple. Okay. So if I just save this style CSS, save this HTML and go here and hit F5. You can see that the para which is draggable, so I can sort of drag this para and this para I can just select it. It's not draggable, right? So this para which is draggable is if I inspect it again, because the p draggable property is set, it is colored purple and the other one is colored usually black color. Okay, so these are the ways you can select various HTML elements either by their tag or by their class or by their ID or by their tag and attribute, and you can style them differently. There are much more complicated ways of selection, but I'm not going into that because those complicated ways I rarely use them, and they, in my humble opinion, they rarely get used. So I think this much will be enough, and when we want deeper selection capabilities, we can always Google it out. Thanks friends. Hi friends, welcome back. So we wanted to showcase what is known as the box model and what are the kind of display settings that you can have on your HTML elements. For that, let us just give ourselves another horizontal line to separate from what we were doing before. Let's have two heading and heading 2, H1 and H2 with ID RND1 and RND2. Okay, this is for the text is random1 and random2 and ID is RND1 and RND2. So let's style this using a background color and a text color. So for styling it, we'll use this external styling in styles.css, and hash random RND1 means that's the ID. Text color is light brownish and background color is greenish, and here the text color is yellowish and background color is a little brownish. So if I just save this And if I come back to my website and if I hit F5 to sort of refresh it, you can see that you have added those two, heading 1 and heading 2, with appropriate background and text color. Okay, so you can even toggle this off, background color, and have a look at it, and text color you can toggle it off and have a look at it, and same for H2 also. Okay, so basically you can see that both the H1 and H2 are displaying block wise, that is, they are occupying the entire line, though the content is only so much, they are occupying the entire line. Okay, so to showcase more what the box model means, let's add some more content. So basically here we are adding a couple of another horizontal line just to separate it from the above two headers, and we are adding one div, two div, three divs. The first div has a paragraph which just says earth, and I downloaded the earth image from the web, so I'm just using image HTML element to place it in the HTML page, and I'm giving it EID. The ID is EID, and again I have another div, right? So just to inform you that all web pages are made of mostly divs. So div is the fundamental element which is used as a container, and we'll study more about containers when we talk about flex display and bootstrap and all that. But div is the fundamental element using which other elements are contained in a HTML page. Okay, so div has another paragraph which just says moon, and I downloaded moon.jpg from the website, and I put it here. And we'll also introduce you to a very nice extension in Chrome called pesticide, which will enable you to visualize all this. Okay, so we have put three divs here, each one with a p and a image, and one with a link, basically a URL link to pesticide Chrome extension. Okay, and to style this, we can come into our styles.css, and using our ID, which is the EID, we can style the image, and we can give it a margin of 10, 20, 30, and 40 pixels. So this is to be read clockwise from top. Okay, this is top margin, this is right margin, this is bottom margin, and this is the left margin. Okay, I will show you in the debugging Chrome browser window, but remember, whether it's the margin or the padding, you need to look at it. It will have 4 values usually, and one of those values can be 0 also, and usually the sequence is start at the top, then go to the right, then go to the bottom, and then go to the left. So it is clockwise. Okay, so just remember that both margin and padding. Border also will showcase to you, and some other settings will showcase to you. So now we'll save this both, and we'll go here, and we'll just go here and hit F5 to refresh. So you can see that this earth image has all the padding, the border, and the margin. Okay, so how do you experiment with that? When I say inspect on this image, you have all this, right? The margin, padding, border, and border top. So to understand each of them, let us switch all of them. Okay, so when I switch all of them, and when I turn on only the padding, okay, you will see that when I hover on the padding, top it is 5 pixels, around 5 pixels, on the right it is 10, on the bottom it's 15, and on the left it's 20 pixels, right? So let me hover on it, and you can see the green border surrounding the image. Okay, so padding is the area which surrounds the content, whether it's an image, whether it's a text, whether it is a table, doesn't matter, or any kind of content. Padding is the area which surrounds the content. Okay, and border is the area which surrounds the content after the padding. So it is the next boundary. So if I turn on the border, you can see that the border is 10 pixel width. It is solid and it's black, and you can see the border here. You can see the my mouse cursor, right? So it is outside the padding. Okay, and what is the boundary which is outside the border also? It is the margin. Okay, so margin will create the distance. So if I enable the margin and hover over it, this margin will create a distance between this element, its border, and the other elements. For example, if I hover over the margin, you can see that the top is 10 pixels, right is 20 pixels, bottom is 30 pixels, and left is 40 pixels. So this is, and when I disable this margin, you can see that the border, the padding, and the image moves closer towards the left edge. When I enable it, it moves away from the left edge. So margin is the area which is surrounding the border itself, which provides gap between a particular element and its neighboring elements. Okay, so the to reiterate again, padding gives you an area surrounding the particular element, and surrounding the padding will be the border, and surrounding the border will be the margin, which will provide a gap between this element and the other elements. So this is what is shown here. So your image is 300 168. You can see the my mouse cursor, and we have given a padding top 5, right 10, bottom 15, and left 20, and the border is 10 pixel wide, and it is solid and black, and the margin is again 10 pixel top, 20 on the right, 30 on the bottom, and 40 on the left. Okay, so this is what is known as the box model, friends. So this is how we can provide some distance between the content and the border, which is the padding, and the content and the neighboring elements, which is the margin. Okay, so that is what we need to understand. One more thing we need to understand is, so suppose I hover over earth, you can see by default this paragraph element is displaying in a block way because it's occupying the entire line, right? And by default it has a margin on the top and margin on the bottom, but there is no margin on the right and the left. Okay, so that is the default settings for a para. Now if I select this, right, and here in element style, if I say display instead of block, which is the default, if I say inline block, see what happens. So, and again when I hover over the the paragraph which says earth, you can see on the left it has occupied how much space it needs. It's not occupying the full length as it was before. So this is called inline block, or we can also make it inline, right? So if it is inline or inline block, you can see that it will take up the space only how much it needs, right? It will not take up the entire width. So inline block is advantageous because when you say inline block, you can set the width and height of an element, but when it is inline, the width and height is automatically calculated. So that is one thing to remember. But both inline and inline block will allow you to place the elements one next to each other, rather than when we say display block, which will ensure that it takes up the entire line. So this is the difference between display block, display inline, and display inline block. Remember, inline you cannot calculate the width and height; it is automatically calculated. Inline block you can specify both the width and the height of the element. Okay, and in future we'll also see display flex and aligning justify center, align center, all that we'll see in future. But at least you can understand what is display block, what is display inline, what is display inline block using this example. Thanks friends, we'll continue. Hi friends, one more thing we wanted to mention is when we inspect here, you can see this image. If you say that the border is 10 pixels solid black, it is 10 pixel in all the directions, top, right, bottom, and left. But we can also say border top's width must be 5 pixels. So when we enable that, you can see when I toggle this, you can see that the border top width is becoming 5 pixels instead of 10 pixels, right? So you can specify border top width, border right width, border bottom width, and border left width separately. Similarly, you can specify margin top, margin left, margin right, and margin bottom, padding left, top, right, bottom. All those you can specify separately also. So for example, I can specify padding. So when I do that, you can see that the padding has decreased in the left to just 1 pixel. Okay, so you can specify it for things at a time, or you can specify it each differently, like we have specified here. So both will work. Just wanted to showcase the basic difference. Okay, and we also wanted to showcase the pesticide. So if I say just right click and open in the new tab, this is a plugin pesticide for Chrome. You can add it to your Chrome browser. So what it will enable you to do it is, well, if you look at my mouse cursor, once you install it, you can toggle it, and that will showcase you all the divs and all the parts of your web page. So this is a H1 basically. These are H1s. These are paragraphs. This is a div, right? And a div has a paragraph of this paragraph where we are saying just the earth, and then it has an image. So all these boundaries, this pesticide will showcase to you. So you can toggle it off, toggle it on, and you can see all the boundaries. So that's pretty cool. And you can see, remember that when we took this and when we changed its display to sort of inline block, right? You can see it sort of ensured that it occupies whatever space it needs, and it lets the basically it lets the image come to its side. But if I just refresh it, all the changes I made here when I am playing around in the debug are not saved. If I just refresh the web page, I'll come back to the original setting I had. So to make this paragraph actually display inline, what I have to do, I have to go back to my website. I have to give it an ID. For example, ID equal to, let's say, paragraph EID or something, earth ID, paragraph earth ID. Save this, come to my styles, hash paragraph earth ID, and I have to say display inline block. Okay, so if I save this, and now if I go back to my website and I sort of refresh it, let me refresh it once again. Control and refresh so that it reloads the CSS. When you hit F5, sometimes it does not reload the CSS. To force it to load, you can hold the control key and you can see my mouse button. When you do control refresh, it will reload all the files. And you can see now Earth has a display style inline. That's it, friends. We'll continue. Hi, friends. So let's continue from where we left off. So basically, wanted to show you how to use Google Fonts for getting better visualization of the text. So you can go to fonts.google.com, and Google has supplied you with lots of beautiful fonts which you can use. So let us say that I want to use this protest riot. I just have to click this, and I have to go look at my mouse cursor, view selected families. Then I can say get embed code. Okay, so it will give me the code to put it in my HTML and my CSS. So what I'll do is copy the code, and I'll go back to my project, and in the index.html I'll paste it just before our own style.css, so that in case there is any sort of the same element or the ID, our CSS gets preference. So basically we have copy pasted the relation pre-connect Google APIs, fonts gstatic, and family protest riot. What we selected, we have copied the code for that, and we have to copy the code for CSS also. So I have gone and copied the code. Now I'll go back to my CSS and paste that here. So this is protest riot regular. It gives you the family, font family, and if protest riot is not there, what is the fallback, font weight, font style, and we can also specify a font size, maybe 30 pixels, something like that. So to showcase this fonts, let us add some HTML content here. So basically we have added again a horizontal line just to demarcate ourselves from the previous actions, and we have a H1 called font normal. It has a normal font, and we have a H1 where we are using the protest riot regular class from the CSS, and this font usage protest riot, that is the text we have provided. So this will basically showcase the usage of the Google font. So when we save both of this, and when we go back to our website, and when we press F5, you can see that this H1 is font normal, whereas this beautiful font is protest riot. You can right click and inspect, and you can see that it has the protest riot regular class, which has a font family, protest riot, and so on and so forth. Okay, and now to talk a little more about fonts, we will have to add some more code into HTML and CSS, and let's do that. So basically basically what we are doing is we are adding another horizontal line to demarcate it from the previous experiments, and we are providing 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs. Each paragraph has an ID. PPX means this font is size specified using pixel. PPT means this font size is specified using point, and we have a div which has a DEM, it's as its ID, and this paragraph PM has a font size specified in M. Okay, so when you specify the letter M, that is the widest character in the language. So when you specify font size as 1M, you're specifying the width and size of 1M. Okay, that's where this EM comes from. And there is also a specification called root EM, which is the best way to specify the sizes of fonts. We'll discuss shortly why. But this is the HTML code that we have added. Okay, so let's add some styling to define the styles of PPX, PPT, DEM, and so on and so forth. So to add the styles of the IDs that we have specified, we are saying PPX is font size is 30 pixels, because PPX is a paragraph, and PX means we have specified the font size in terms of pixels. Okay, and PPT means font size is 30 points, is specified in terms of PT, which is points. PEM means it is specified as M, right? Like we discussed. And REM means root EM. It is specified in terms of HTML's, depending on HTML's size. Okay. DEM is for this div, and DEM says that it has a font size of 1 EM, and the whole HTML object, the whole HTML document has a font size of 1 EM also. So these are the styles we're going with. Okay. Notice that 1 pixel is 1/96th of an inch, whereas 1 point is 1/72 of an inch. Okay, and 1 EM, as you know, is all the width of the letter M, because that's the widest letter among all the alphabets. Okay, and root EM means this font size will not get affected by the parents or the grandparents. It will get affected only by the root. So what does that mean? Okay, let's discuss. So let me save this, and we'll go back and we'll hit F5 to refresh it, and you can see that this font is specified in pixel, right? So if I inspect it, it is 30 pixels, and this is inspect this, it is a 30 points. Okay, and this is in M. Okay, M is usually denoted as EM. Okay, and this, when I right click and inspect, this is REM. Okay, so why is REM always preferred? The reason is, if you look at this M and REM, they are both inside a div, right? Now if I go to the div, its size is 1 EM. Now see what happens when I make it 2 EM. Okay, as soon as I make it 2 EM, the font which is specified in M, EMs, increases because its parent's font size increased. Okay, so this is confusing in one way, because if there is a div inside another div inside another div inside another div, we don't know how many parents or grandparents are affecting its size. Okay, whereas this REM, which is PREM, the font size remains the same, because the HTML document, so if I go to HTML document, its font size has not changed, right? So this font size depends only on the root element, which is the HTML element. So if I make the HTML element as 1.5, you can see that this font size increases, but its dependency is only on the root element, which is the HTML. And this guy not only depends on the div, but also it depends on the HTML size, as HTML is the grandparent of it. Okay, so friends, the main point we are trying to make is, if you specify in font size in pixel or font size in point, no matter what the size of the parents is, this size will stay intact. Okay, this is not desirable because we want the web page to be sort of responsive to the global settings. But setting it as M is not very convenient, because we don't know how many parents, grandparents are affecting the font size. So the best way to set the font, the most preferable way, is to set it using REM, wherein the font size is affected by its own font size and the root parent font size, the root parent being HTML, the whole document itself. So thanks, friends.